Sly Cooper originally releasing on the PS2 in 2002 was actually huge, and for more reasons than you may think. So let's take a look at this classic, talk about its impact on gaming, and let's see if the game still holds up today. It's no secret that Sly Cooper would go on to be a huge success. However, it had a much wider impact on the gaming space itself. Before Sly Cooper, Sucker Punch was a small studio only having released one game, which is Rocket Robot on Wheels. But with Sly Cooper, they took a massive risk, creating a game starring a talking raccoon, a huge gamble for a new studio. Following the success of Rocket, the team approached Sony, who agreed to publish what would later become Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus onto the PS2 exclusively. Given the lack of experience under their belt, development around Sly was expectedly very tense. They had only made one game. What if they couldn't make a game as well liked or received? Would anyone even be interested in playing a raccoon with a big stick? Thankfully, the launch was incredibly successful, and Sly sold over 1 million copies, placing it at number 163 for the highest selling PS2 games. Now I know what you're thinking, 163 might not sound that good until you realize that this game was from an unknown company taking a huge risk on a talking, thieving raccoon, in addition to there being over 4,000 PS2 games. 163rd out of 4,000 plus from a new studio being their second game, that is a very well done thing in my view. It was so successful in fact that it spawned multiple sequels within a short period, all getting fairly positive receptions, even the one that wasn't made by Sucker Punch themselves. Not the best, but still a decent outcome. In one game, Sucker Punch was able to solidify themselves as quality and trusted game makers. They were able to create a whole new mascot for the PS2, as well as give us one of the best games for the console. So, what made Sly so good? One of the first things you notice when you start the game is that its gameplay really isn't like any other game that was out at this time. There were many games that were released in 2002 with only a tiny amount that took a real focus on the stealth mechanic, and even fewer making that stealth mechanic its core gameplay. 3D platformers were huge at the time with the likes of Mario, Jak and Daxter, Crash Bandicoot, Banjo, Donkey Kong, Gex, Spyro, etc. But none dared ask the question, what if our entire platforming game was stealth based? This fresh new approach set Sly Cooper apart and allowed developers to create levels that entirely shifted the mindset of the player. It was a fantastic and interesting shift, but also something that players would need to get used to. As you play through the levels, you will quickly realize Sly is quite fragile, and this is actually by design. You will die if you get hit once, and you can circumvent this by collecting lucky charms that give you an extra hit per charm. However, this decision to make him so vulnerable shifts your focus away from facing your enemies head on. Instead, you become aware of your character's fragility and begin to integrate a stealthy approach to navigate your obstacles. You begin scouting out ways to complete each area, plan your movements to be the most efficient, become methodical, all while trying to stay undetected, and all contributing to playing into the fantasy of a stealthy, master thieving raccoon. The gameplay will mainly focus on those stealth mechanics, but you do get some other tools at your disposal. You do get a melee attack with your cane, an ability to land on extremely small platforms, an ability to slide down rails, turn invisible, as well as some shooting in turret segments, and fending off pesky crabs in these asteroid adjacent minigames. No matter what you're doing throughout your play, everything felt extremely tight. Sly has the perfect weight behind him. Not too light where he feels floaty, but also not too heavy where it would conceivably make his stealth sequences unbelievable. There is a perfect balance struck here where he feels capable when throwing down with enemies, but also extremely agile and light to where you believe he would be able to effortlessly climb, jump, and flip around these levels. Outside of that usual gameplay and the minigames I've already mentioned, you'll also have racing segments, hacking sequences, and time trials, so no matter what you're doing in the game, it's always throwing something new at you. Now the gameplay is fantastic, but it can only thrive this much thanks to the varied and exceptionally crafted level designs. Your play will be broken into 5 main zones, and each of these zones will have multiple levels within. You can explore the hub of each zone for the collectibles, or enter the portal to obtain that level's key, which assists you in completing this zone by unlocking and granting you access to that zone's impending boss fight. The levels are incredibly varied, each with its own theme and personality, making sure you never feel like you're treading the same ground. The first zone, for example, has you sneaking through a swamp to take down a frog boss, while the next throws you into a gritty city full of tough guys, each setting perfectly reflecting the personality of the boss you're going to face. The third is a giant alligator, so her area is this dark, dingy, uneasy swamp with giant beasts lurking within. You get the idea. My point is that every level and zone was so uniquely designed, they oozed with personality, and there was not one level or zone that I disliked. The sound design only further complements the gameplay, shifting from tense, quiet moments where every footstep counts to more dramatic, action-packed moments where you're confronting the Fiendish Five. It keeps you immersed, heightening every sneaky move and daring escape. So this leaves us with the story. Who are the Fiendish Five, and was this story equally as impressive as the rest of the game? I'd argue yes. Although it's fairly simple, the cast of characters that lift up the story are so well written, so full of character and charisma that they motivate the player to get to know them. You want to spend more time with the strong but goofy Murray. You quickly learn to love Bentley's frantic and overly cautious mannerisms, and you really enjoy the dynamic between Sly and Carmelita Fox as they play a game of cat and mouse throughout your play. It was also really interesting to see how they slowly break down each other's walls to become more vulnerable with each other by the game's end.
I thought for sure she was gonna slap the handcuffs on me right then and there. But instead, she was true to her word and gave me that 10-second head start. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So let's get into that story. What's actually going on here? Why are you playing as a talking, thieving raccoon? Sly was gifted a book called the Thievius Raccoonus that contains all his family's secrets when he was quite young, and he would actually use this book to become a master thief. However, before Sly can even grow up, an evil group known as the Fiendish Five invades Sly's home, kills his father, and steals the book. These 5 members split the book evenly and scatter all around the world to form their own criminal empires. These empires are the zones that you visit as you navigate through the story, and as you guessed, the boss at the end is the member of the Fiendish Five. At the start of the game, Sly along with childhood friends Bentley and Murray infiltrate Interpol headquarters in Paris to steal a file that contains info on the Fiendish Five. However, they're intercepted and ambushed by Inspector Carmelita Fox. From that point, you navigate your way around the world, taking down enemies and members of the Fiendish Five to restore the book, all while Carmelita is hot on your tail trying to put you behind bars. As you recover each page to the Thievius Raccoonus, you will unlock one of the aforementioned abilities that belongs to someone in Sly's family tree. Not only did it keep the game feeling fresh by drip feeding you new things to do constantly, but it simultaneously expanded the lore of Sly Cooper. You see, he comes from a long line of notorious thieves who all have their own specialities. It only made me want to delve deeper into his lineage, find out what other abilities his ancestors have, and hope that they appear later on in a future game. The story is very simple, but it is incredibly effective. For a game like this, it is perfect. It's enough to play into the variety of levels, abilities, provides some really personable moments, gives each character their time in the spotlight to justify their presence in the story so nothing or no one feels wasted. Again, just another highlight to this fantastic game. Now, if you had to ask me if I had any faults or any issues with the game, I would struggle, and the best I could come up with is this: Ms. Ruby and her boss fight. Her fight is certainly creative, incorporating rhythm-based mechanics as you dodge flying PlayStation glyphs for some reason, but compared to the other battles, it feels like a bit of a letdown. The other boss fights require you to use skills you've learned before, or to really put your wits to the test. This just feels like a shitty Guitar Hero ripoff. So does Sly Cooper hold up to today? Absolutely. It's a timeless classic that blends stealth, platforming, and character-driven storytelling in a way few games have matched. If you haven't played it yet, do yourself a favor, Get this one for the PS2 because it's a gem that still shines brightly. Just don't tell Sly because he's got to steal it. Get it? He's a gem thief.